Hi everyone, today we are going to try building a small but complex snakemake pipeline using the latest version of chatGTP, GTP-4. To be honest, I was not much impressed by the GTP-3 model, but I think GTP-4 is different. So I made this video so that you can judge for yourself. I will walk you through the process of requesting the pipeline, debugging the pipeline, and at the end of the video, we'll see if the pipeline generated is any good. So let's dive into it. Okay, so we will start with the basics of chatGTP. Essentially, you have conversation here on the left. I'm selecting a model, and now we are going to go for 3.5 because it's the cheapest one if you want. And we are asking, can you generate a simple snakemake pipeline? And there it goes. It just created and explained what we are doing, and it's very neatly also giving the conversation a name here on the left. So we want to take this conversation a little bit further and ask, okay, can you extend the pipeline? And it says, yeah, sure. And it goes there, adds the rule that we want and explain what it's doing. So the first thing that I want to understand the capabilities of GTP-4. So I will ask the program to reproduce a figure from a paper. So I start very basic, asking to find a paper, and it says, sorry, I'm unable to browse the internet. And that's the first thing. ChatGTP cannot browse the internet, but it does have a lot of the internet's loaded, apparently. So again, I asked, can you look at a specific figure? It says, look, I cannot do that, but I can help you generate or regenerate this image if you want. And that's what we want to do. So we start by requesting the data files, and I ask, can you make a script to download these files? It says, yeah, sure. And it does it, and then specifies at a certain point in the code, at this stage, you have to give a certain URL that I don't have access. What I'm highlighting here is what the code should look like. It's not exactly this, but we have to go and check it ourselves. But if we go to the one that it suggested, it does take us there, like to the actual website. So it's quite impressive that it stored that information. And then it tells us how to get those by doing the copy link with the. So that was quite impressive. It gave us the script and also explained where we should look for the missing URL, making the caveat, okay, make sure that these files actually exist. So that was pretty cool. I was pretty impressed already with that. The idea now is to continue asking ChatGTP to do the different steps of the pipeline. Then we are going to ask it to create Docker containers for each of the steps and put everything together in a snakemake pipeline. So we are going from the bottom up, trying to build this pipeline. We ask, can you generate the differential expression analysis for this chip that was used in this figure? And we specify the properties of the chip. And lo and behold, it creates that script, and it's pretty accurate. I've done something like that, and that's more or less what you need to do. Then we ask, can you generate from that file that you created the differential gene expression scatter plot? And it actually goes and does that as well, and pretty accurately. Finally, we ask, can you make a Docker image to run all the steps we asked you so far? And there it goes and sets everything up. Finally, we say, okay, let's have this snakemake integrated everything. And we have there the 3 steps for each part of the pipeline. And then it gives us the configuration file and how to run everything. So that's pretty impressive as well. Here's something that I asked the program to improve. I asked, can you add variables to the config file, such as the sample names? And it says, yeah, I can do this to the config file. And what is more striking now is that then it modifies both the pipeline and the different scripts to accommodate these variables. So that's quite pretty impressive as well. It's actually integrating the edited version of the config file with the pipeline itself and each script within the pipeline. Then I ask, okay, can you include the URLs as well? And it does this again and again. It updates the snakemake file accordingly together with the different script. So in paper, so far so good. Whenever we request something from ChatGTP, it seems to be creating a sensible answer or code. But the question now is, does this code actually work? So I launched the pipeline and I found that it's crashing in the first rule, and it shows us an error message. And here starts the other fun part. So we say, okay, there is a problem here. it identifies what the problem is when we give it the error message, and it says it's something related to JSON. Then it tries different things. First, it says, let's use this rep function for the JSON part of the pipeline, but it gives us another error. So it says, okay, let's maybe change and use the format function instead. We try to modify that, and again, there is another problem. Yeah, the program sort of tries a different strategy. It creates the parameters just to simplify the shell command, which is quite impressive. It's taking a step backward and trying a new solution, which also have problems, but then it says, okay, let's try what we did before, but with this modification, and finally it got it right. So I went through all the debugging, which is something I would not recommend. It's easier to use a little bit of your brain, but I just wanted to push and understand how much the AI can do on its own. I found quite impressive that it adapts and creates different strategies and eventually gets it right. Anyway, it was fun just to debug with ChatGTP the error message rather than Googling the error message. However, I kept hitting different bugs through the pipeline and trying to resolve them in this way. It was not very efficient, and eventually I gave up. And in part, the problem stemmed from trying to define the steps first and then create the pipeline. So the next thing that I did was to go for a different approach where I defined the pipeline upfront. It's like I said, I want to get the scatter plot from the data, and I want to do it in these steps. So download the data, then do the differential expression analysis, and then do the scatter, put everything together in a snakemake file, create a config file with all the data, and create Docker images for each route. So we put everything up front in this case, and this is called prompting, and is maybe one of the most important skills while dealing with ChatGTP, just to set the AI on the right direction. And then we asked, can you do all of this? And it starts giving us the information. It gives us the config file. Then it gives us the snakemake file, which is all good. It goes for a very simple approach to get the files from the web, different to the previous one. But then it starts giving some generic things like, here is your script where you should put the scatter plot for the DEG analysis. And it also misplaces the rule all, so it's not free of bug either in this case. And in the same way that it was giving generic names for files to run the DEG and the scatter plot, it also made sort of generic Docker files. So then I had to go and ask, okay, can you generate actually this missing code for me? And it went and it did it as well, created the scatter plot and differential expression script, and also the Docker files correspondingly. And it says, okay, in the snakemake file, you should change this generic file by the new file that we created. And then for the differential expression analysis, you will have to make it work for this special type of chip that you gave me. And then I asked, okay, can you do that for me? And it says, I can do that. And there it goes and adapt the scripts accordingly. So in this case, it seems that for each question that you ask, it has a certain amount of thought process it can give you. And then you have to continue prompting it with new questions to get everything out of it, which is quite interesting. So now we have our pipeline again, but the question remains, does it work, and how difficult is to set up and debug? So I went ahead and created all the files suggested. This is very easy. You just click the copy code icon and then you create the file. So I created the snakemake file, and from the get-go, you can see that there are some things that wouldn't work, like where the rule all is placed. And there were some input and output mismatches. And there were also corners being cut by the program in terms of making it generic for the number of different conditions. And that's why I had to comment some samples to make it work with the script that was being provided. Also, we had the differential gene expression analysis, and there were also some issues with the contrast matrix that I had to fix, but the scatter plot script seemed to be fine. So we launched the pipeline after some debugging, and we see that the raw data files start to be downloaded. If we click on the raw folder, we can see the cell files already downloaded, and then it continues downloading everything. And once the last one is downloaded, the next step, doing the differential expression analysis, launches. The files are loaded, and then it does all the normalization, corrects the background and calculates the differential expression. So that is done. If we go to the results, we see the differential expression table. And then the last rule, scatter plot, is run. And we have this very primitive, but at least functional pipeline giving us the desired result. Overall, there were still some things to be ironed, but at least it's a good start. So this has been an incredible experience compared to GTP-3. GTP-4 seems to be having some thoughts behind it. It's not like a superficial answer with cosmetic changes or a completely erroneous one that appears to be right. Instead, there seems to be some reasoning behind it, and it's quite a leap. I don't think that GTP-4 is there yet to automate everything. It still has some bugs here and there, but if the next update makes a similar leap as the one from 3 to 4, I think that GTP-5 would presumably be able to do all of this. So we will know this in the future, and stay tuned for the app.